Hey everybody, welcome to Mammoth Interactive's YouTube channel. First of all, I want to thank you for watching this video. And remember that this channel doesn't do Patreon. Instead, we sell our digital courses down below. And every single dollar that we get from the products you buy below goes into making more content. The best way to help out this channel and Mammoth Interactive is to subscribe to Mammoth Interactive's huge library of content. Get thousands of hours and hundreds of courses for a low price down below. We have a monthly option and a yearly option. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the video.
What is up everyone, and welcome to our course on building an apartment hosting app. Here we're going to build an app that allows users to create postings for apartments and houses, as well as search for them and book them. So something similar to Airbnb for those of you who have used something like that. So our app goals here are to display and search for postings, and by postings I mean basically postings of apartments or houses. We'll be able to create and manage accounts. Our accounts will contain information about ourselves, as well as what postings we have liked or what trips we have coming up, etc., as well as a list of course our postings as well. We want to be able to save postings to our list of saved and liked postings, as well as actually book postings for future trips. We want to be able to send messages to other users. This will be circumstantial, of course. We'll only be able to send messages once we've booked a place. We'll want to be able to create and manage postings as well. Of course, a huge part of this is actually creating the content to go on the site, as well as edit it and actually see who is booking your places. So how are we going to go about building this app? Well, we'll build the app in Android Studio. We're going to be running it on the Android emulator, and the reason I'm choosing the Android emulator is because it's more universal. More people can use Android because it can run on any device, whereas only those of you who are running Xcode on Macs can actually see the iPhone side of things. We're going to write the app functionality and UI using the Flutter framework so that it's cross-platform, as well as the Dart programming language. And we'll be using Firebase for the backend. That will be taking care of the user authentication, as well as the storage and the real-time Firebase database. So what topics will we be covering? We'll start by building the app wireframes and screens. This will be the basic screens, widgets, anything that we need that is displayed upon the app that the user can see and interact with. We'll then work on building the app data structures, such as classes and any objects that we'll be using, as well as planning how the database will be structured. Then we'll build up the database by adding in some data, and we'll add authentication functionalities, so we'll create some users and we'll kind of populate their accounts with some information. Then we'll write some functions to fetch the data. This will be purely retrieval functions that will allow us to pull the data where necessary from users or postings or conversations, etc. Then we'll be writing functions to insert and modify data. So these will be upload functions where we can put data into the database or edit data that exists there. Finally, we'll finish the app by adding any in-app functionality that we might require. So this will be stuff that just helps to improve user experience, anything that may or may not be directly interacting with the database, just stuff that helps the app to function and work a little better, as well as giving it a more polished and finished feel. So that's actually it for our introduction. I do want to keep this short and sweet because each of these sections will go into much greater detail into what we're going to be covering. I just wanted to give an overall picture about what we're going to be building before we start. So think about apps like Airbnb, where it's basically just putting out a bunch of postings such as hotels, houses, apartments, etc., and allowing you to book them for stays. So that's kind of what we'll be building here. Okay, I hope you guys are very excited. I'm super excited to teach it to you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. What is up everyone, and welcome to our tutorial series on building the app wireframes. Here we're going to be building the basic screens or pages for our app and only implementing the navigation. So this is just a way to build up the frames without any of the functionality or the data. So our goals are to learn how to create new screens or pages in Flutter. As long as you've watched our intro to Flutter tutorials, this process should be fairly familiar to you already. We'll then implement forwards and backwards navigation. For the most part, this will be kind of just navigating to a new page when the user presses a button, and then navigating backwards or popping the page when they press the back button. There will be some exceptions, however. We need to learn how to work with various display and interactive widgets. So display widgets would be widgets like text widgets or image widgets, and interactive widgets would be, let's say, text forms or input fields, and buttons. So these are things that the users can actually press or type into or interact with in some way. And finally, we'll learn how to create custom widgets. There'll be many scenarios in which the widgets that are native to the Flutter library just aren't going to cut it. We'll need to use various combinations, and we'll be reusing these combinations, so it's best to create our own custom widgets so that we can just use those rather than reusing old code. So an overview of this tutorial series will be basically again to create the wireframes and the navigation of the app. So this means we're just going to focus on the structure for each of the pages or the screens. We're basically just going to build the frame and add all the necessary widgets to display information and the ones that are going to be used to process the user input. So if we build a page, for example, that is going to be used to edit some information, we'll add in the necessary text fields or buttons, etc. We just won't necessarily implement the functionality or load in the data just yet. That's not going to be the focus of this tutorial series. We'll save that one for the next time. And of course, we do want to implement the navigation between the screens. Again, this is typically on button presses. There's no point creating all those screens if we can't find an entry point. So we'll basically only implement the navigation functionality. The rest of the functionality we'll save for later. So specifically, what topics are we going to take a look at here? Well, we'll first start with creating a Flutter project. Obviously, that's going to be step one. If we don't have one created, then we'll set one up at the end of these slides here. Then we'll work on building the guest pages. The guest pages come first because there's more of them, and there will be more users using these guest pages. After all, every user can be a guest, but not every user is a host. So we'll start with the start pages. These are going to be the welcome screen, the login screen, and the sign up page. So these will be fairly simple. Welcome screen will just be kind of like a title with a logo and some text. The login screen is going to be an input form that will take in the username and password and either log in or navigate to the sign up page. Sign up page is just going to take in some basic user information, so fairly straightforward there. The profile pages that we'll work on will be the personal profile, the edit profile, and the view profile pages. So the personal profile is going to be what we will see when we navigate kind of like to our account page. The edit profile is going to be a chance to edit settings or information. And then the view profile is going to be as if we were to view someone else's profile, just a generic profile page. Then we'll take a look at the trips pages. So there's lots here. The first is going to be the explore page. This is kind of like the home page on an app similar to Airbnb. It's basically just a way to display all of the available postings and trips and hotels, houses, etc. that everyone has posted, and a way to, of course, search for them and filter them. Then there's the saved and the upcoming or previous trips pages. Those are fairly self-explanatory. We'll implement the page to view a trip or view a particular posting, and of course the bookings page. So the bookings page will be last because that's going to be the more complex page. And finally, on the guest side, we have the conversation pages. These are going to be a simple inbox and conversation pages. They'll be fairly generic because we're trying to keep the messenger quite simple. Realistically, this app will not be about a ton of communication back and forth. It's mostly just to communicate the main points and to search and book places. After this, we'll move to the host pages. There's actually not going to be very many here. We'll start with the trips pages. This is going to be the my postings and the edit a posting pages. This will be a chance to view what postings I have and then to create new ones or edit an existing posting. Then the conversation pages, we'll probably just reuse these from the guest pages, but provide them to the host side of things in kind of a host navigation. And then the bookings page, that's by far going to be the most complex because it needs to display which bookings we have available, as well as give us a chance to kind of modify the price, modify availability, etc. So that's why we're saving that one for last. Okay, so that's it for the slides. We know kind of what we'll be doing. This will probably take, well, it'll take several hours. The exact time will vary depending on how quickly we can do this. To speed things along, what I'll do is if there's bits of code that are very, very easy to implement, I might just say implement them, and then kind of you can pause the video, try for yourself, and then in the once you unpause the video, then I'll provide a solution for that. Either way, I'll try to keep things step by step and easy enough for you guys to follow. So let's head on over to Android Studio and we'll start up a new project. So I am using version 3.4.1 at this time. Depending on when you're watching this, there may be a new version out, so just get the latest one. Make sure you have watched our intro to Flutter tutorials. That way you'll get some knowledge as to how to use Flutter, as well as how to actually set up new Flutter projects. So let's go ahead and start that. We'll get a Flutter application going. Give this a name. I'm going to call this something like Hotel Hunter. Although, you can really call this whatever you'd like. It's just a fairly generic name. We need to specify the Flutter SDK path. So this is just wherever you saved your Flutter SDK, that one that you downloaded. Alternatively, you can install it if you don't have it. We need to save this to a specific location. I'm actually fine with where it's saved right now, or rather where it's going to be saved. Make sure you are happy with where it is and that you can find it easily. And if we want, we can provide a description. It's just going to be a way to connect hosts with guests and to search for hotels and other accommodations. Cool. Okay, so let's click next. Specify your company domain if you have one, otherwise we'll leave everything blank, and then we'll just go ahead and finish the project. Now, every time you create a Flutter project, it comes with this kind of, generic sample code. We're probably going to delete most of that. There's a lot of comments there that we can delete as well. By this point, like I said, you should have watched the Intro to Flutter tutorial series, so you should be fairly familiar with this interface and with which parts of code do what, etc., what we need to keep, and so on and so forth. So make sure you have main.dart open. That's in your basic main folder. We're going to go into library and that'll be main.dart right there. We can go ahead and basically clear out a lot of this stuff. So I'm not a big fan of passing in the title here. I'd rather just specify it in the actual class itself, so we can get rid of that parameter, as well as this comment can be get rid of, and then we're going to get rid of this variable as well. We don't need the counter or this function, so we can get rid of both of those. We can remove this. We actually are not going to provide an app bar for this main page. I'll show you exactly why in the next section, so we can clear that out. We can get rid of this comment. We do want a column, so I'm going to keep the column there, and we probably will want to censor everything, so I'll leave that as is, but I just want to get rid of these text widgets, so we have an empty list of children, and of course the floating action button, we can get rid of that too. Okay, so let's take a look. This should be what your page looks like right now. Fairly generic. I'm fine with leaving the names, main, my app, my homepage, etc. This is really just going to be used for the title page anyway, but more on that in the next section. So with the project set up, you know what you're going to do over the next few hours. So let's get right to it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. What is up, guys, and welcome to the first part of our Building the Wireframes tutorial series. Here we're going to be focusing on building the main page, which will be just a simple welcome screen for our app. So on here, we're going to create this welcome screen. We'll actually first start by importing the also size text package. More on that in just a bit here. But the welcome screen is going to contain just a simple logo and some welcome text. So something really basic and generic. This is basically just going to be the first screen the user sees before they're directed either to the login page or to their account if they're already logged in. So let's head on over to a browser first. I've got Chrome open here, and we'll go and search for the also size text Flutter. You can see I've actually already searched for it. We're going to go ahead and select this first package here, or this first link to the package. This is going to be our also size text package. So this is a really fantastic package. It's basically an extension of the text widget, and it provides text that also resizes to make sure that it fits its boundaries. You can see a simple demonstration right there. Now, the reason this is important is because I found when people enter really long emails or usernames, then there are certain display text widgets that actually cut that off. And rather than taking the time to implement my own custom text widget that also resizes, I figure it's easier just to use this, which is an open source package anyway. So we're going to include this wherever we need text that may or may not change in size. So basically, this is whenever someone enters an email or a username or something like that. As long as it's static text that will never change, we can just use a regular text widget. So this is version 2.1.0 at this point in time. Let's head on back to Android Studio. We're going to start by opening up our pubspec.yaml file. We're going to go down to our dependencies, and we're just going to add in the auto size text. And this is version 2.1.0. Okay, then we'll call packages get. This will make sure it's installed, and then that will give us access to the auto size text widget. So like I said, you use it exactly like you would a regular text widget. It just auto sizes the text where appropriate. Cool stuff. So that's that. We can close that up. By the way, there'll be actually multiple packages that we'll be having to import just like we did as we go. So stay tuned for that. I'll kind of explain what the package does and why we need it when we get to those points. So back to main.dart, what we want to do here is build up our page. So our page is going to be fairly simple. I think it's basically just going to be a screen with an icon and then the text that has the name of the app. If you have a particular image or a logo that you want to display, that's even better, but I decided just to go with a generic icon. Now, I'm going to be using several constants throughout this program's execution. So what I'm going to do is actually create a file to hold all of these constants. This makes it easier to change these if I need to, because I only need to change them in one place rather than searching through every file. So under my libraries package, I'm going to create a new... Actually, let's put these all in one package. We can call this constants or models, or you can call this data or whatever you want. The typical convention is models or something if you're following like an MVC pattern. Okay. That being said, I guess we can create the other folders now too. The other package will be the views. Okay. And after this, the other one will be the various screens. So I'm just going to say screens, okay, rather than controllers. Just makes more sense. So we actually put the main.dart inside of screens. That's okay. Good stuff. It's just going to refactor it. And I just like to organize my projects this way. You can put everything in one big folder if you want. It's just we're going to be working with many different files, so I figure it's probably best to separate them out a bit. Okay, cool stuff. So in models, we're going to get a new Dart file started, and I'm going to call this AppConstants. I'm just going to create a class called AppConstants, and actually let me make this a bit bigger for you guys. We're going to start with just a static final string, which is going to be the app name. And I'm going to set this equal to, I guess we'll just go with Hotel Hunter, or whatever you called yours. You can use this name if you want, but if you're going to release it, then I suggest you do something different. Okay, cool stuff. So back to main.dart. Now what we're going to do is add in, again, that icon or the logo, and then a text widget. And that's pretty much it. Maybe add some padding and stuff. So for here, we'll start with a generic text. Actually, I guess we'll start with the logo. I'm going to use, again, an icon. Although if you have a specific image you want, you'll probably want some kind of like an asset image or something. Okay. For now, I'm just going to go with a simple icon. Okay, this is going to take in some icon data. So it's going to be icons, or rather, yeah, so this should be icons dot, and then I'm going to go with the icons hotel and kind of see what this looks like. It's probably going to be quite small, so I'm actually going to give this a size of, we'll try 80. I think that might be a bit big, but we'll see. Okay, so after we have that, let's just add in some text. I'm not going to use the auto resize text because this text is always going to stay the same. It's never going to change. The auto resize text or auto size text is more for, again, when we're displaying text that will change from user to user, and we want to make sure it's not cutting off. So this text is just going to contain our app name or something like welcome to, and then the app name itself, so that we're going to have to go into AppConstants. Okay, and then we're going to have to import this package. So if you click on this red squiggly, I mean, you can go on here, or you can click on this red squiggly and do Alt Option and enter. Then you can import the library. In this case, that's fine. We just want to import AppConstants, and then we want the app name. Okay, so this is likely going to be quite small, and we'd probably want it to be bolded. So I'm just going to add a bit of text style right now. So we'll do a text style here. Okay, we'll do a font weight to be a font weight dot bold, and we'll do a font size to be, let's try 40, and we'll see how big that is. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're going to have to add in a bit of padding, so we may as well do that now, and then we can kind of adjust. By the way, it's on pretty much any widget. If you click on it and hold the Alt and Option key and enter, it brings you some options. So one of these options is usually to add padding. It's just a much faster way of doing that than just doing like padding and then saying child is equal to, and then having to do that. This just kind of speeds things up a bit. So I'll be doing that a lot as we go, just so you know exactly what's going on. So we don't really need padding all the way around the edges. I think probably what we can do here is just do an only top, because we only want padding from the top, and we can do a padding of maybe 20. We'll try that. Okay, one other thing I might want to do with this text is center the text. So I think text might be text align. Yep, text align dot center. Okay, cool stuff. Realistically, this should be centered anyway because of the center widget, but it's good to be specific. So let's actually get this started. I will be running this in an Android emulator for the most part. It's just kind of what I'm more familiar with. I also have an Android phone, so that's just what I'm doing. I actually have one set up. I assume, again, if you've watched the Flutter tutorials, you do have a simulator or an emulator set up. Just select whichever one you have and get that started. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and actually I think I already have it running here. Okay, good stuff. So I can go ahead and just run my app. Now this is going to take a second or two to kind of load everything, so I'm just going to pause the recording and start it again once everything's finished loading. Okay, and we're back. So this is finished loading. This is what our welcome page looks like. It looks okay, I mean, nothing spectacular, but it just gets a message out there. It's really just meant to be kind of like a launch screen that shows something before, again, directing to the appropriate page. So realistically, this will only be displayed for a couple of seconds. What this will do is, if a user is currently logged in, then it will just take a couple of seconds to load the data, and then it will direct them to their account page, or maybe to the home page, whatever we decide. If the user is not currently logged in, or if no users exist, then it's just going to direct them to a login or a sign up page. Okay, that's all this serves to do, is just kind of a transition between multiple pages. So for now, that is it. We actually don't have any pages to navigate to yet, so we can't implement the navigation. We'll have to add in the extra pages first and then add in the navigation afterwards. So the only other thing that I'd want to change is maybe add an exclamation mark there just to make it a bit more user-friendly. Say, welcome to Hotel Hunter with some enthusiasm. Okay, so that is it for now. We've finished this welcome page. In the next one, we will be building our login page. There's again just going to be a couple of text fields and a couple of buttons. That may or may not take a couple of sections. I'm trying to keep things a bit shorter, so we'll see how long they run. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the second part of our Building the Wireframes for Our App tutorial series. Here we're going to be focusing on the login page, and this will give us a chance just to build a very simple login/sign up screen for our app. So we have a fairly simple design in mind. This is just going to contain a couple of inputs, one for the username and password. Both of these will be text inputs. And then we'll create a button to sign in. Obviously, it will need to check the username and password, but we won't do that just yet. And we'll also have a button to navigate to the sign up page. Just as if we don't have an account, we can simply enter the desired username and password and then go to the sign up page to fill in the rest of the information. So let's head on over to the code now. And this is where we left off last time. We just created our main .dart file and populated it. This was our basic welcome screen, and it just contains a text widget here. Actually, that's on the bottom, and also contains an icon, which in our case is just a hotel. So again, feel free to add a logo instead of the icon if you want. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and close that up. And what we're going to do is we're going to go under the screens folder, and we're going to create a brand new Dart file. So this is going to be our simple login page. We can just do a login page like this. You could do lowercase or uppercase. It's totally up to you. And what we're going to do to save ourselves a bit of time is actually just copy this all over, and we'll just paste it in here. And then we'll be able to change a couple of things around. First of all, we can get rid of this main function. Okay, and actually, yeah, we'll leave main open for now. We'll need to change around a couple of the names. So this is going to be the login page. In fact, why don't we do this? Let's actually cut out the stateless widget altogether. And we'll just go with a stateful widget. Okay, so instead of my home page, we're going to do login page or my login page, totally up to you. We're going to have to change a couple things there and there. Okay, we'll have to change the my home page state as well to login page state. Okay, this is a stateful widget, so we will need to maintain a state at some point. Okay, we can go ahead and just minimize that. And let's get rid of these children here. Okay, so I think we'll still stick with the center and we'll stick with a column. And we may change this in a bit, but we need to populate it with some children. Now, the first thing we'll want is probably some kind of a message up top. So if we take a quick look at what it looks like now, obviously this is the main or welcome page. This isn't actually the login page, but probably will display some kind of a message. Maybe it'll actually say welcome to and then the app name, in this case Hotel Hunter. And then we'll contain the two text fields, and then we'll just contain a couple of buttons. So really standard sign up or sign in or sign up screen. And actually, if we're going to have a welcome message, I might just change this right now to just Hotel Hunter. So let's go back to main really quickly. And instead of the welcome to, I'm just going to display the app constant app name. Okay, so let's go back here. And now we'll start with the title text. Okay, so we'll do a text here. Okay, we'll enter some information there. And then what we'll do is we'll have a form. So actually, let's enter some text before we do the form. This is just going to say welcome to, and then the app name. So we'll do AppConstants.appName, like so. Okay, and then underneath this, we'll have our texts. So we'll stick this all within a form. I think it's probably best if we do this, if we put it in a form itself. That way we can implement some kind of auto validation. So within this form, we are going to have the child be actually a column. So we can actually only add one child at a time to the form, but we can kind of add, I guess you can call it kind of like a hack or a cheat, if we have the child be a column that contains multiple text fields. So within this, we're going to create a column with some children, and within this, we'll just have a couple of text form fields. So we'll have a text form field here. Okay, we'll have another text form field here. So this is going to be for the username or the email. This is going to be for the password. Now, after this, we can actually put them outside of the form if we want. I'd probably recommend you do. You can add your buttons. So we'll just add a couple of material buttons. Okay. And actually, let's just add some of the attributes here. So we'll need an on pressed. For now, we'll just have a blank function. And we'll have a child that is just going to be some text. This is going to contain the login. Okay, or rather, this is going to be the login button. And then we can just copy this and paste it, and below, instead of login, we'll have the sign up button. Okay, like so. So let's take a really quick look at what this looks like. In fact, for the text form field, it's probably best if we add some sort of a label. Otherwise, we won't be able to see them and the user won't know exactly what they're supposed to enter. So let's just quickly add that, and then we can add any extra decoration or styling that we want. So we're just going to add some input decoration here. Okay, and this input decoration is going to take in some label. So it's going to be just some label text, and this is going to say username. So we'll just say username/email. Okay, and then we'll do the same for this text form field. We'll add in the decoration. Okay, but obviously this will not say username or email. This is going to be our password entry. Okay, so let's go ahead and I guess we don't actually have an entry point for this yet, so we can't even see what this looks like. It is important to note also that this is wrapped around a scaffold because we want basically a new page with potential to have an app bar, even though this particular page still won't. So before we can actually see what any of this looks like, we need a way to enter this page, and we'll do so using a root. Now, I personally kind of like going to main.dart and specifying all my routes, all my possible routes within this material app. I guess you can call it an instance of the material app. You don't have to do things this way. There will be some cases in which we actually do have to do things this way. That's why I default to doing this, just that I don't really have to think about it. But in some cases, you can actually just push a route and kind of come up with a route at that point in time. What we'll do is within each of the pages we need to navigate to, so login page being one of them, we're actually going to go up to this part here, up to the stateful widget, okay? And we're going to add in a static final string, which is going to be the root name, and we can set this to whatever we want, /something, so /login page. Okay, if this is a root, so let's do /login page root. Okay, so then if we go back to main.dart, we can add in a routes map, okay? And we build it up by doing the login page, which we'll have to actually import. You see it squiggles red. We'll do the Alt, Option, and Enter, and then we'll just import this library. Okay, login page.root name. Okay, and then we are going to do this. We're going to have to provide a closure that's going to take in context, and it's going to return the actual root, which will just be an instance of login page. Okay, so this is just one of the roots. What this is doing is it's saying, okay, there's a root with this name. And basically, once we call upon this root, this login root.root name, then we're going to return this function here. It's going to take in some context, and it's going to start up a new instance of the login page. That's basically all this is saying. So if we want to actually navigate there, we simply need to do the navigator.push named and then the login page root name. That way, when it sees this root name, it returns this. Okay, cool stuff. So for now, what we'll do in main.dart is we'll just have this auto navigate to this page after a quick delay. So for that, we'll need to call our initState function. Okay. And we are, before calling super.initState, we're going to start a timer, and then we're just going to auto navigate for now. Realistically, this is where you would decide whether the user is currently logged in and just load their data and then navigate. But for now, we don't have any users, we don't have any data to load, so we'll just do kind of an auto load. So in initState, we're going to do a timer. Okay, we may have to import that. Yeah, we're going to have to import the library .async. We're going to do a timer, and we're going to do a duration. Okay, duration is going to maybe navigate after, let's say, 2 seconds. Okay, it will auto navigate. That should be enough time. Okay, and then after 2 seconds, we want to actually do something. So that's why the closure here. After 2 seconds, we want to get our navigator. Okay, and we want to do a push named. Yeah, that's the one. We want to take in the current context, and that's fine. And then we need the root name. That is going to be our login page. .root name. Okay. This way, essentially what this is doing is as soon as this state is initialized, as soon as we create the home page state, it's going to take 2 seconds, and then it's going to navigate to the login page. So it's just going to call upon this root name. This is going to go up here and say, Kate, do we have a key with that name? Yes, we do. So then we're just going to push on the login page. Okay, cool stuff. So now, because this is dealing with the state, we're probably going to have to restart this. I'm just going to pause my recording and wait for this to start up again. Okay, and after a couple seconds, it loaded up, it navigated to here, and this is what our page looks like. So to be perfectly honest, it's pretty ugly. We definitely don't want to leave it looking like this. What we want is to modify this text. We definitely want to make it bigger. It needs to be up at the top. We want to make sure these aren't going all the way to the edges. I don't think they look very good when they do. So we'll probably want to have these kind of indented, I guess is the right word, have some padding on the sides. We'll also want to spread them out a bit. And if possible, we'd like kind of like a box around them like this, rather than just having the line here. Also, the login button and sign up buttons, we should probably add some kind of color and have them be rectangular like this. However, I am trying to keep the videos a bit shorter, so I'm going to end this one here, and in the next one we're going to come back and style this page up. Okay, so thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. What is up, everyone? Welcome to part 3 of our Building the Wireframes of the App tutorial series. In the previous section, that was part 2, we built the basic frame for our login page. This is kind of what it looks like. It's still pretty ugly and needs a lot of work, which we talked about in the previous section. So let's finish it up now, and then we can move on to the next page. So what do we want to do here? Well, for starters, we'll have to increase the font size of everything, probably make this bold. We'll want to move this up to the top, add some kind of a padding, okay? Because realistically, we want these two text fields and these two buttons to be kind of the same width, all right? We want to add some color here, and we want to add some spacing properly. At the very least, we'll see if there's some other stuff we want to change. So let's go to our login page.dart, okay? And from here, we're actually going to, we can close up main.dart if we want. Let's just minimize that. And let's just get this over here. Okay. So for starters, let's get rid of the main axis alignment.center. We no longer want this. We actually want it to start up at the top. Second of all, we want some kind of padding up at the top and at the sides. And we want everything to conform to this padding. So rather than adding padding to the form or the text fields and the buttons, why don't we just add some padding to the entire column? So we'll select this column, we'll add some padding. Again, that's at Alt Option and Enter. Alternatively, if that's not an option, you can just do padding manually like this, and then do the child, and then kind of cut and paste everything inside of it. I just find that shortcut to be a little bit faster. Okay, so we don't want edge insets.all. We want actually from left to right, to left, top, right, and bottom. Okay, so the left and the right are going to be the same. I'm not sure what kind of padding we want. Let's try out a 25, see if that works. We want it 0 from the bottom. We don't really care about that. And the top, maybe let's try a 25 and see how that looks. Of course, we can always adjust these figures later on. Okay, so let's give this a reload. And let's see. Okay, so it's kind of looking a little bit better. I'd say that's probably not quite enough padding from the edges, and still for some reason that padding up at the top was not applied. So maybe let's try 50s all around. Okay, and let's reload this, and let's see what this looks like. Okay, so now it's brought in from the edges and it's brought in a bit from the top. I think the padding is actually going from the very top, so we'll probably bring that down to maybe 100 and see what that looks like. Okay, so that's a bit better. So now let's work on this text. Obviously, it's much too small. We want it to be bold and stand out. So we'll have to add in a bit of text style for this. Okay, so we'll add in some styling. We'll add a text style, like so. We'll add in a font weight, which is going to be a font weight.bold. We'll add in a font size, which is just going to be, let's do maybe a 30. Let's try that, see how that looks. So we can refresh this. Okay, so it's definitely looking a bit better. Obviously, we'll want to center this text. I don't think it looks very good when it's skewed off to one side. So let's do a text align.center. Cool stuff. Okay, yeah, much better. Okay, so we probably want some padding here. This is, in my opinion, a bit too close. So let's add some padding to the overall form. Alternatively, we could pad each text field individually. That might actually be a little bit better because we'll want to add some padding here and some padding there specifically. So let's wrap each of these in some padding. Okay, and I'm kind of fine with the left and right spacing. Essentially, I just want to move it down from the top and then down from the top, and then we could do the same thing with the buttons. So realistically, we probably only need an edge insets.only, and this way we can just specify some top padding. So let's try 25, and we'll just copy this and paste it there. And let's give this a reload. Okay. So spacing is a little bit better. We could maybe even do a little bit more. So maybe let's try a 35. But this is all personal preference, by the way. If you do want to tweak things a bit further, that is totally fine. Okay, so next up, these texts are still a bit small. So again, we'll do the same thing with the text style. Just going to copy that to save ourselves a little bit of time. So under the text form field, we can add in a style here. I don't care for it to be bold necessarily, but maybe let's try 20 and see how that looks. Okay, we'll give this a reload, and that's looking a little bit better. We can even increase the size a bit more if we want. Okay, don't worry about this overflow. We will deal with that a little bit later. Okay, maybe I'll actually try at 25. Okay, good stuff. So that concludes these. I kind of like this label. You see that when we select it, it shows a hint and then continues this hint up top. I do like that effect, so that's why I kind of chose the label text rather than a hint. And the next up is going to be the buttons. So first of all, we'll need to space these buttons out from the top. Again, I'm pretty fine with them going all the way to the edges there, but we'll definitely need to add in a bit of padding. Okay, so this is going to be again only from the top. We'll do a top, maybe we'll try padding of 40.0. Okay, and then I think we'll probably just copy that. We'll wrap this in some padding as well. And we can just paste that, and we'll try it at 40. So let's just see how this will all space out first. Okay, so this is spaced out maybe a little bit too much. So maybe I'll just try a 30 and a 20, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, cool. So once we add some color to the buttons, we can kind of modify these a bit more. Okay, so I figured what I would do with this button, with the login button, is make it blue, and then the sign up button we can make gray, and if we're not happy with the color scheme of the app overall, we can change it later. Okay, so for this material button, we're going to add in a color. We'll just do colors.blue for now. Okay, and we'll do a colors.gray for this guy. Okay, and let's give a quick look at how that's going to look. And okay, so I'm okay with the colors for now, but these buttons are not the right size. So they're not extended all the way out width-wise, and they're probably a bit small height-wise as well. Unfortunately for material buttons, you can't actually specify, I think you can only specify the min width and the height, okay? But you can't specify a max width. The min width, I think, should work for us just fine, so let's give that a go. We'll add in a specific height. I'm going to go with maybe a height of like the screen divided by 15. I don't usually like to do heights as constant numbers because when you're adjusting to different screen sizes, then you might end up with a really small button if you add in a constant number and you're viewing it on a very big screen. Whereas if you're viewing it on a very small screen and you add in a big height number, then you get like a massive button. So this way it auto adjusts to the screen size. So we'll do a media query .offContext .size.height, and we'll divide this by, let's try divide by 15 and see how that looks. Okay, so then the min width is actually going to be a $.infinity, and hopefully that should set it all the way to the edge. Okay, so we'll do the same for our other button as well. Let's give this a refresh, and let's see how things are looking. Okay, so a lot better. We've got it going all the way to the edge. It's a little bit bigger. I think we can probably make that a bit bigger still, so maybe let's try divided by 12. And then if you want, you can change the font size. That looks a little better. We'll probably change the text size up, and I kind of want to round these borders a little bit more. So that's actually pretty easy to do. What we can do is just add some decoration to each of the buttons. So because I want the button text to be bolded, I'm just going to copy this, and we're going to add it into our texts. So our text children here. Let's just do this, and then we'll add in the style. So I think 30 is probably going to be a bit big. We'll try 25, and we can adjust that if needs be. So I'm just going to add that style to our text widget here. Okay, and we'll give a refresh, and let's see how that's going to look. Okay, so it's looking a lot better. I'm okay with the sizing for now. Let's just see what this will look like with some white text. So under the text color, I think this actually goes under text style. So we'll just do a color. Okay, and we'll do colors.white. And let's just see. I'm not sure how that's going to look against the gray, so we'll find out soon enough. Okay, to be honest, I actually kind of like the black a bit better, so I guess we'll skip that. But feel free to add in specific font decorations if you want. Okay, so otherwise, the last thing I would like to do is perhaps, let's actually just get rid of that, perhaps actually move these a little bit closer together. I'm not too thrilled about the spacing, and then we'll add in some of the rectangle borders. Also, we'll space these out just a tiny bit more. I think this one's only 20, so let's make that 30. And then we'll just add in the kind of rounded edges, the rounded corners there. So for this, we're actually just going to specify the shape attribute for these buttons. So shape, and this is going to be a rounded rectangle border. Okay, and this is going to be, oops, that shouldn't be a dot, this should be our border radius. And we'll do a border radius dot circular, and then we'll just do, maybe we'll try like a 15 or something. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so shape, and we'll go here. And again, let's refresh that. Okay, so I'm okay with this. Maybe we could make it a bit smaller. Maybe we'll try like a 12 or a 10 even. And then actually we'll change that spacing for these guys. Maybe we'll do a 25 instead of a 35. Okay, so spacing's a bit better. I'm a bit more happy about how those corners are looking, so I'm going to leave it at this. Okay, cool stuff. So I'm pretty happy with how this is looking for now. Again, we're just going with the basics. We can really fine-tune things at the end of our course if you're watching it all the way to the end. For now, this is good enough. We've got all the bits and pieces that we need on the page, and we can implement the functionality, specifying keyboard type, and dealing with that annoying scaffolding issue as well. So in the next section, we're going to be working on the sign up page that will be linked to when the user clicks sign up. After that, we'll do the main page where the user clicks login. That will take them to kind of to the guest homepage. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. What is up, guys? Welcome to part 4 of our Building the App Wireframes tutorial series. Here we're going to work on the sign up page. This will just be a very simple sign up screen with a bunch of text inputs for our app. So this page is going to contain inputs for name information, so first and last name, location information, probably we'll just stick to city and country. We won't need to put an address or anything like that. And then a bio, which will be a chance to tell the world a little bit about yourself. After this, we'll just have a button to submit the information that will basically trigger the sign up process, and then it will navigate us to the home page. Now, I know the home page isn't built yet, but in theory, that's what I will do, and we'll work on that in the next section. So let's head on over to the code. This is where we left off last time. This is what our guy looks like right now. Nothing happens when you do login or sign up. When you do login, this should navigate to the home page. When you do sign up, this will navigate to our sign up page, which we're about to build. So we'll want to open up the project window here, and under screens, we'll start by creating a new Dart file. And this is going to be our sign up page. Okay, and basically what we can do is we can take everything from main.dart, or you know what, let's actually get everything from our login page. So it's going to be a bit more similar, and we'll paste it in there, and then we'll change a couple things. So for starters, we'll probably want to clear out, I guess we can leave in the padding, and we can leave in that text, but we'll clear out the form and the button, one of the buttons. I think we'll stick with one of the others because we may reuse some of that code. Okay, so this is no longer going to be a login page class. This is going to be our sign up page class. So let's change that there, and there. This is going to be our sign up page state. So sign up page state. We can change that there, and there. Okay. We also want to change the root name. This is now going to be our /sign up page root. Okay, we can add that if we want in our main.dart, but I think we may as well add that now. Okay, so the roots, this is going to be a sign up page dot root name. Okay, and we'll need to, of course, get the sign up page, so we'll import that library. This is going to do context like this, and then we're going to return an instance of sign up page like so. This way we can call upon this root name anywhere within the app. It doesn't just have to be from main. Okay, so coming back to the sign up page itself, we can close main up for now. Let's talk about how we're going to build this. So our app looks like this. When we go to the sign up page, it's going to be really, really simple, albeit a little bit boring, to be honest. We'll probably just have a title that will say, like, enter some info about yourself. There'll be a first and a last name box. There'll be a city and a country box, and then there'll be a bio box. And then at the bottom, there'll be a submit button. So we're keeping things really, really simple and straightforward. Okay, so let's get to work. Now, the very first thing we want is some kind of a title that will say, please enter some information about yourself, or please fill in the following information. It doesn't necessarily have to be as big as this, but let's change the text. Maybe we can bring that down to a font size of 25. This is in the sign up page, by the way. And we're just going to have this say, please enter the following information, or something like that. Okay, so after that, we're going to need some text, and this is going to be in the form of, I think, about 5 different text fields. Now, likely, that's not all going to fit on this page, because we had 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so first and last name, city and country, and then the bio. Now, the bio is probably going to span multiple lines, and then a submit button down at the bottom. This means we don't want to cramp stuff, so it may run off the screen. What we're going to have to do is encapsulate everything within a scroll view. Now, there's 2 ways we can go about doing this. We can have just the text field scroll and the title stay there, or we can have the whole thing scroll. I personally think it will look a little better if we have the whole thing, including the title scroll. So let's encompass even the title in the scroll view. Also, there's the option to scroll the padding as well. So basically, this would be the absolute top, or we can scroll everything all the way up. I think we may as well, again, scroll everything all the way up. Although, again, feel free if you want to change how things look. Absolutely, you can do so. But this is just really to provide a starting point for how things are going to look. Okay, so let's encompass this with a new widget. This is going to be a single, if I can spell it properly, single child scroll view. Okay. Now within the scroll view, we're going to have the button at the bottom, but then we're going to have some text inputs. And actually, you know what? I should have kept that form, because I think we're going to be reusing some of this code, or using some very, very similar code. So we can do that. The reason, again, I'm picking a form is because it comes with an automatic validation. For example, with these text form fields, I can add a validator, which is going to be used to check my values. I'm not going to do the validation yet. I'll do that when we actually do the functionality behind everything. So it'll be on the submit function. Again, for now, we're just getting stuff on the page. So our first one is going to ask for the first name. Okay, I'm fine with a size of 25. The second one is going to be the last name. Okay, and then we can copy this a couple more times. Let's actually just add that. Okay, oh, and I think we actually had it at the top maybe. There we go. Okay, so now we have 4 of them. So we've got first name, last name. We'll do the city and the country. Okay, and then finally we'll have one more, and that is going to be for our bio. Now, this bio one is where things get a little bit different. So for the bio one, it's going to probably contain up to a few lines of text. Okay, so for that, we're going to add a special text form field that is going to have the specific number of lines. That's actually under the max lines property. Let's maybe do 3. I think that should be plenty. Whereas all the others are going to be single line kind of inputs. Now, finally, that should be good for now. At the bottom, we're going to have a button that's not going to be sign up. It will just be submit, like so. And I am going to change this actually to blue rather than gray. I think blue is a bit more kind of welcoming. Okay, so this is probably pretty good. We, of course, need an entry point for this page. So we have the root name. What we're going to do is we're going to go to login page. And now under the sign up button, we are going to actually add something in the on pressed. Now, this is a really simple sign up process. So I could just add the functionality in here, but instead I'm actually going to trigger a function. So I said the only functions we're really going to implement are going to be navigation functions, but this function is probably going to contain some more information next time. So, or when we actually go to implement it properly. So let's just create a separate function for it. So this is going to be called something like sign up. Okay, it's actually going to be a void. It doesn't need to return anything. Okay, and this is going to, for now, just say navigator.push named. And this is going to be the push of the sign up page dot root. Oh, actually, this is context. Okay, and then the root name is going to be the sign up page dot root name. Okay, and this is going to need to import that library up top. Okay, this gives us access to the sign up page. Okay, so now we have that function. We need to call it from the sign up button and the on pressed here. We're going to just call upon the sign up function, like so. This will go and it will call this. This makes it private to this class, by the way. You don't have to do that. I think it's probably better where possible to protect access. One other thing we might want to do is once we get to the sign up page, let's say we get halfway through the process and realize, oh, actually we do have an account. So we want to go back to the login page and log in. Right now, that's not possible, and that's because we don't have any kind of backwards navigation. The reason we don't is because the scaffold has no app bar. As long as we're navigating to a page, as long as we provide a basic app bar, it should have that navigation automatically put to it. So we're going to create an app bar in our sign up page. Okay, it's going to be a fairly simple one. It's just going to be an app bar like this, and it's going to contain a title, which will just be some text widget. The text widget will just say, I don't know, it could just say sign up page. Okay, we could have the text color, so style actually. It's going to be text style. And we're going to have a font weight. Maybe we can make this bold if we want. What I'm more interested in actually is a color. We'll try a colors.white and see how that looks. I think it might actually default to colors.white. But anyway, and we'll actually set a size for this. So font size, maybe we'll try a 20. So I think it's a bit smaller than that naturally. Okay, so let's stop running this because this is creating a brand new page and we'll restart it. I'm just going to pause my recording and wait for this to finish. Once it's done, we'll come back and we'll take a look at how it looks. Okay, so it finished loading. Let's take a look. If we go to click on the sign up page, this is what it looks like. So we have a chance to enter first name and last name, city, country, and bio like so. And then we have a submit button at the bottom. So a couple of things. First of all, because we added the app bar, this is now 100 from not the top, it's 100 from the bottom of this. So we can change that to 50 because we definitely want to move it up. Second of all, this doesn't actually need to be bolded. So let's make those changes now. Okay, so let's change that back to 50. Instead of font weight.bold, we'll actually take that out. We'll take a quick look at how that changes. Okay, so that's better. We can go down to the bottom. We need a bit of spacing here. So on the submit button, the top is 30. I think we can actually space that out a little bit more. It looks a bit cramped. So let's try a 40 spacing there. But instead of only, we're actually going to do, or we could do top and then bottom here. Bottom, maybe we'll try 40 as well. And we'll take a look at how that looks. Okay, so it's moved out a bit and it's spaced down there. That looks a lot better. All right, cool stuff. Also, this backwards navigation happens automatically. Okay, it's automatically added. As soon as we're pushing a page, we can automatically pop it as well just by doing that. Okay, excellent. So I think we are good to go here. The sign up page is looking okay. Again, it's not supposed to be anything fancy. We just want to take some basic information. As always, if you do want to add your own personalization, totally cool. Just realize this is how this is kind of the end product for this particular page. And then when we submit, we're going to go to the home page. So we'll work on the home page in the next section. Stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys in the next one. What is up, guys, and welcome to part 5 of our Building the App Wireframes tutorial series. Here we're going to be focusing on the guest controller page, which is essentially a way for the guests to navigate around the main pages in our app. So this is actually going to be focused almost entirely around a navigation controller. This page alone will just act as a main frame for the guest side of the app. So the way that the guest side is going to work, of course, once you've logged in, is there's going to be a main controller that has 5 main pages on it. You can basically click on the different icons to load the different main page, and then from there you can click on various items within each page to take you to separate pages. But there's this over-encompassing idea of this main navigation controller. So that's what we're going to be working on here. It's just going to be a controller with a few different icons. We'll talk about how to implement it. It'll be quite simple. And then we'll talk about a few of the app design principles that we're going to be applying towards the rest of the tutorials. So let's head on over to the code. This is where we left off last time we'd finished our sign up page. What we want is a home page that we can navigate to once we submit here, or once we successfully log in. So this kind of frame, this navigation frame that we're going to be building, this is going to be the page we'll navigate to, and then within that we'll choose which of the pages we'll currently display. So it's actually not so difficult to kind of grasp this concept once we get going. So I guess we'll just start by creating that new page. We'll create a new Dart file in screens, and let's call this something like the guest home page. Okay, and we can start with the same basic setup as we usually do. Let's just copy all this. We'll paste it in. We will change things around. So instead of login, this is actually going to be the guest home page. Okay, and we'll paste it in the appropriate spots. This is going to be the guest home page state. Okay, and we'll paste and paste. We'll change the root name. This is going to be the guest home page root. We can basically get rid of this function. And for the most part, we can get rid of all of this stuff. So actually, let's take out the scaffolding. Well, we will need a body at some point, but let's just take it out so that we have a blank scaffold, and then we can talk about what we're going to do from here. Also, we're going to not need access to sign up page, so we can get rid of that too. Okay, so let's take a second to talk about our implementation plan here. Essentially, with this app, when we log in successfully, it's going to display, it's going to take us to this guest homepage, which is going to have bottom navigation. If you've ever used the app Airbnb, we're kind of trying to go for a similar-ish sort of thing. I mean, you see this kind of design appear in many different apps where there's some kind of a navigation system. Sometimes it's at the top, sometimes it's at the bottom. Essentially just has a list of icons. You click on the icons, or you just kind of swipe left or right, and it loads what looks like a new page. That's kind of what we're going for here, except that instead of pages, we technically have widgets. This is just as simple as creating the main frame with the bottom navigation. And then when the user selects the different icons, we load in essentially a new widget, which for us is kind of like loading in a new page. So we're just building the frame here, and then we'll add the different pages as we go. So I actually want to start at the top and work my way down. So we're going to start with the app bar. Now, this is a part of the scaffold, so let's go ahead and add it in. It's going to be an app bar. We'll use most of the same stuff as we did with the sign up page. You remember we created the app bar there, but we're going to be changing things up a bit. Now, because we'll be using the same app bar theme throughout, and I'm trying hard to not reuse old code, I'm actually going to create a separate widget for this. And this is just going to be the text part of the app bar. The reason I'm only going to do the text part is because the app bar will change from screen to screen. Sometimes there'll be additional actions. In this particular one, there's actually not going to be a back button. So we can't use a generic app bar. We will have to customize that a bit more. So what we're going to do is under views, okay, we're going to create a custom class here. This is going to be a Dart file. And I'm just going to call this text widgets. Okay, and this will contain any kind of custom text widgets that we create. So I'm going to create our first custom widget. This is going to be a class. Let's call this something like app bar text. Okay, and it's going to extend a stateless widget. Okay, now we'll actually need to add an import, so Alt, Option, and Enter. We want to import the material.dart. I think that's the one that most of these have. It is. Okay, and this is going to itself need an override. That's going to be the basic build function. Okay, essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to return this text widget. Okay, that's going to take in some kind of a text, and this way we can leave exactly the same style for every single one of the app bar titles, okay, but we just need to pass in some kind of text. Now, this is going to be a thing, well, a similar thing to what we'll do when we create most of our custom widgets. We'll have something like this. It's either going to be stateful or stateless. If it's stateless, that's easier. All we need to do is we need to take in some parameters, okay, that will apply to every single version of this widget. So in this case, all of the properties are going to remain exactly the same except for the text here. So what we should do is we should create a custom constructor called appBarText. It's going to, we can add the key if we want, but we don't have to. I will anyway. And then we're going to say this dot text, okay? And then we're just going to do super key like so. Okay, and then we're going to have a final string text, like so. And then instead of this, we're just going to pass in the text string here. So this is, again, pretty standard for creating a custom stateless widget. Essentially, it's usually a combination of widgets, or it's a specific widget with certain properties set. Just keep in mind that because we are returning a custom widget, we cannot change any of the other properties. So that means if we want to use this widget, we have to make sure all the properties are set here in its implementation, because then when we go to use it in, let's say, sign up page or in our guest home page, we cannot actually change the properties in that section. Okay, so I'll show you how this is going to work. We'll go to guest home page. We'll add in, what did we call this one? We called it an app bar text. So the title is going to be app bar text, like so. We're going to need to import that package, and then we're going to need to pass in the text property. In this case, we'll just pass in an empty string for now. We're actually going to change this and implement a custom string in just a second here. That also means that we can go to sign up page, and we can replace this text widget with app bar text, just like before, and then we can do text, and we called this one, I think we just called this one sign up page. Yep, that seems about right. And then, of course, we need to actually import this library. So the benefit of doing things this way is that we don't reuse code, okay, which we always want to try to avoid. We want to try to write as few lines of code as possible, okay? And also, if we want to ever change any of the properties, let's say we want to increase the font size, we only need to change it in one place, and then we'll see that reflected in every single one of the app bars. Okay, cool stuff. Otherwise, we can go ahead and close that guy up. We no longer want the sign-up page. We want to focus on the guest homepage. Now, our scaffolds usually have a body. For example, in the sign-up page, you can see there's clearly the app bar, and then there's the body, and that contains the main part of the page. We will provide a body for this in just a couple of minutes. But before we do, I actually want to add in the bottom navigation bar. This is actually a property of scaffolds. So all scaffolds can have a bottom navigation bar. If we really wanted, we could have added one to here, but it doesn't really make much sense. And this is it's just a property. Okay, so we're going to add a bottom navigation bar here. And this is going to be an instance of bottom navigation bar. Make sure you don't select the item, navigation bar item. We'll fill those in as we go. Okay, so you can see that we have a list of items. We'll also have a couple of other properties that we'll have to specify. So it's going to be an onTap function. This is going to be used to change our currently selected, navigation bar item. So the app is going to have a list of icons at the bottom. OnTap is going to be called whenever the user taps on one of these or selects a new item. For now, we'll just pass in an empty function call. Oh, and this is going to actually take in an index. So we'll just say index like so, and that takes away the error. Okay, so the items we'll come back to that. The other one we want is going to be the current index. So this is going to be the currently selected index when the page loads. We can have this be static. We'll just need to pass in an indexing variable. I'll do that in just a second here. And we'll also want the type. I'm just going to do a bottom navigation bar type. index.fixed. Okay, this way everything stays in place and it doesn't shift around. The current index, I guess we might as well create that indexing variable now. So we'll have an int index, or we can say selected index. Okay, and let's just have it as 0 for now. Okay, we will have to add some items to make sure this doesn't crash when it's loaded. But we're going to say the current index is going to be the selected index. Now, as for the items, this is going to be a list of bottom navigation bar items. So we're going to create a list like this. Okay, it's going to be a list of bottom navigation bar item, like so. So that gets rid of the error. Now, that is the basic setup. We still have to add each of the items, and one of the other few pieces of functionality we'll do now is going to be the actual selection of the different items, because this is going to be used to determine which pages are being displayed, so I figure we kind of have to implement that now. We'll actually save this for the next section. I do want to give you guys a bit of a break, because I don't want like a 20-minute video, so I'm going to stop this here, take a break, do what you need to do, and when you come back, we'll finish off this page. Okay, so thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. What's up, guys? Welcome to part 6 of our implementing the app wireframes tutorial series. This is also part 2 of the main guest page navigation frame. So if you remember, we just set up our bottom navigation bar here, and essentially we have to specify this list of bottom navigation bar items, what happens when the user selects a different item, and then of course the actual frame for the page, which kind of sub-page, let's call them, is going to be displayed when the user selects different items. So I figure we'll start with this guy, and then we can implement the onTap function and everything else. So I think probably the best way to write the fewest lines of code here is to create a function that's going to return us a bottom navigation bar item. That's because each of these is going to need some kind of text. It's going to need probably some kind of an icon, it's going to need an index, and it's going to need a selected or not selected state. That's a lot of code to repeat multiple times for basically the same thing. So rather than creating a stateless or stateful widget, I think it's probably easier just to create a function that will return some bottom navigation bar items. So we're going to do something a little bit like this. This is going to be a function that will return a bottom navigation bar item, and we'll call this something like build. We'll just call this build navigation item. Okay, so this is going to take in a few parameters. This is going to take in an index. This is going to take in some kind of icon data. So icon data, let's say icon data. And it's also going to take in some kind of string that we'll just call text. Okay, so this is going to return a bottom navigation bar item, like so. And this is going to need some stuff. So first of all, we're going to pass in an icon. That is going to be an icon made from the icon data that we passed in. Whoops, the icon data that we passed in as a parameter. Okay, do we want to change it? We probably should. This is going to be based, however, entirely on whether it is selected or not selected. Lucky for us, there's actually two different icons. There's the icon and there's the active icon. So the icon is going to be the non-selected one. The active icon is when that particular icon is selected. So what we're going to do is we're going to say icon data here, and we're going to say the color is going to be some kind of color. Now, it's probably better practice to save these colors under some kind of a color scheme. That way, if you decide later on you want to change the color scheme completely, you can. So we're going to go to AppConstants, and we're just going to add some colors here. So we're going to say static final color selected navigation icon, or let's just say selected icon. Okay, is selected icon color, of course, is going to be colors dot and then whatever we want. Okay, and we'll do the same with a non-selected icon. So this is going to need material. I think we actually didn't have that in here before. Yeah, that's right. So we're going to do the selected icon color. I found a colors.deep orange was actually pretty good. So I'm going to go with that. Okay, I'm going to do a non-selected selected icon color, and we'll just do a black for that. So when the icon is not selected, it will be black. When the color is the icon is selected, it will be this nice deep orange. All right, good stuff. So let's go back to the guest home. And we're going to say the color is going to be AppConstants dot non-selected icon color. That way we can easily change it when we need to. Okay, so we've added the icon. What about the active icon? That's going to be basically the same thing. We'll just pass in exactly the same icon, but just with the selected icon color. Okay, same icon, just different colors. All right, good stuff. So we've got those icons. What about the title? Well, that's a property of the bottom navigation bar item. And this is just going to be a text widget. Okay, the text widget is going to have to take in some text. That is going to be whatever text string we pass here. And let's style this up a bit. This is going to be a text style here. And this text style, we're not going to worry about the font size or weight or anything like that. What I'm mostly interested in is the color. Now, weirdly enough, with these bottom navigation bar items, the icon changes color when it's selected, but the text doesn't, unless we input this manually. That's actually quite easy for us to do, and it's the main reason we're taking in the index. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the color of this text equal to either a deep orange, that kind of selected state, or the non-selected state based on whether the selected index equals the current index that we're on. Okay, if it does, so that means that we are currently selecting this icon, then we're going to do AppConstants dot selected color icon. Otherwise, we'll do AppConstants dot non-selected color icon. Okay, so fairly straightforward. Essentially, all we're saying is, when we're building these icons, is the selected index equal to whatever index we're passing in here? If it is, then we are selecting that icon, so we should change the text to orange. Otherwise, we'll change the text to black. Now, we need to add some items, so let's go ahead and add them in here. We're going to call our build navigation item. We'll need to pass in an index, some icon data, and some text for each of the pages that we're going to display. So when I built the app, I came up with this following structure. We're going to have the Explore page here. That's going to be the main page that is going to display all of the possible postings and all of the trips. You can kind of search for things, filter things out. And then we'll have the saved trips pages. This is trips that you've liked or postings that you've liked. Then we'll have the trips page. This will be upcoming trips or trips that you've been on previously. So it'll just kind of display the postings and the dates. Okay, after this, we'll have the inbox page, and then finally we'll have the profile or the account page. So we'll need 5 items here. This is going to be the 0th index. For the icon data, because this is going to be actually the Explore page, so let's just set that right now. We'll have some kind of an icon that will basically be indicative of an exploring page. This is also a searching page, so I chose the icons.search. I found that looks okay, kind of makes sense in this particular case. And what we're going to do is we're going to paste that, copy and paste that 5 times. So I'm just going to change the indices here. We have the Explore page, then the saved, then trips. Then we have the inbox. And then finally we have the profile. Of course, we'll probably want different icons for each of these. So the icons I came up with are going to be our favorite, but the border. So this way it's kind of hollow. You see there's this heart that's hollow rather than the heart that's filled in. Okay, so for the trips page, I wanted to go with the hotel. That's kind of the same icon as we've seen before in our app. For the inbox, I went with a message icon like this, pretty generic. And then for the profile, I think I went with a person outline. Like so. Okay, so it looks like this. Okay, so pretty cool stuff. We're maybe about half the way through implementing the final bits of this functionality, maybe a bit more. The other 2 tasks we have, well, actually 3 tasks, are going to be to implement the OnTap, to provide some kind of body for the scaffold, and then choose which text to display. Well, let's focus on this. This one's quite easy. Essentially, we just need a list of these titles. And then we're going to display the appropriate title. This way, when we navigate through, we're going to display either the Explore, Saved, Trips, Inbox, or Profile in this title, rather than just a generic guest home. I think it's a little better that way. So I'm just going to create a simple list of strings. Actually, this should be final. And we're going to call this something like page titles. Okay, and this is just going to be some list of strings. We're basically just going to copy and paste these strings in. So we'll do the explore, then we'll do the saved, then we'll have trips, then we'll have the inbox, or I think this is, yeah, inbox is fine, and then we'll have the profile. Okay, in fact, what we could do is just say page titles. This should actually have an underscore. What we can do is just add in the page titles of the appropriate index. So page titles, index 0, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and so on and so forth. Okay, so why don't we do that? Okay, let's just paste them in. And of course, we'll change them to the appropriate numbers here. So 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, cool stuff. So next up, we'll do the on tap. This is really just changing the current value of index. So all we're going to do here is we're going to make a call to set state. Okay, and we're going to say current index, or I think it was selected index we've called it, equals index. Okay, what this is doing is it's saying we've tapped on a certain index of items, specifically an index of these items. So we're just saying that the selected index is equal to this one. That way it will kind of rebuild the page and it will know to set one of these to selected and the rest to unselected. That will be based on what index is currently there. If they're more complex functions, usually I implement them outside of here, but realistically we're only doing one thing here. So if it's kind of something as simple as this, then I just implement it in the build function itself. Okay, so the final thing we need to do is provide some items. Now this is essentially just going to be a final list of generic widgets. So we're going to say final, we can provide some spacing here. A final list of widget. And these are going to be our actual pages. So we'll call these pages, and it's just going to be equal to a list of some widgets. Now these widgets are each going to represent a page, just like, for example, we have a sign up page. We could do like a sign up page, a login page, etc. Except obviously we won't choose those. We'll have to create an explore page, a save page, a trips page, an inbox page, and a profile page, and then feed them in here. Which means that our body for the scaffold is just going to be the pages of the current index, or selected index in this case. That way we can say the body is equal to some page that's in our list of pages here. Now we don't actually have any pages created. We don't have the screens we need. Therefore we can't really see this guest home page in action. So I'm actually going to end this here, because again, trying to keep things short enough. So in the next section, the next tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to provide just 5 blank pages that will feed into here, and then we'll implement the navigation here, and then we'll be able to actually see these tab bars in action. Okay, and then hopefully it will all come together and make sense. All right, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and of course, see you in the next one. What is up, guys? Welcome to part 7 of our app wireframes tutorial series. This is also part 3 of building the guest navigation framework. So in the previous couple of sections, we worked on building this bottom bar navigation. We have it pretty much figured out. We just need to build some blank pages so that we can actually see it in action. So all we're going to do here is we're going to set up 5 very generic pages that maybe just display some text. Then we'll implement a means to navigate to our guest home. And then we will just actually see this in action with these navigation items selected and not selected. So let's create some generic pages. I guess this will be a good place to start. We'll need to create these pages anyway in the upcoming tutorials. So we'll start in screens. This first one is going to be our explore page. So let's literally call it that, explore page, like so. We're going to create another one. And this one is going to be our saved page. Okay, and then again, we have our trips page. After this, we have our inbox page. Okay, and finally, we have our profile page. I'm actually going to call this the account page. You can call it profile if you want, but I figure profile is better left for a different part. So we'll just call this the account page. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, I guess we can take any one of these. We'll do the sign up page. We'll just copy and we'll paste it over into each of these. So we'll start with the explore page. All right. So this is going to be our explore page. And it's going to extend stateful widget. That's fine. We can copy, paste, etc. We'll need to do the explore page state. We can copy, paste. That's fine. We'll need to, of course, change this to not exist at all. We actually won't need these because we're not passing in a route. You'll see very quickly that we're not actually loading, like pushing a new page like we do with the navigator. Like, for example, in the main page, can't really see, in the main page here, when we navigate to another one, we're actually starting up a new route. We're pushing a new thing onto the navigator stack. That's actually not the case with these kind of navigation items. We're not pushing anything, we're just kind of displaying the next one. So we don't need the route or anything. So what we're going to do is basically get rid of all of this, including the scaffold. Weirdly enough, for each of these, we don't use a scaffold. The reason being, our guest homepage is the scaffold. So this already has the scaffold with the app bar and the bottom navigation bar. The body of it is just going to be whatever we choose to add to these pages. So if you see with this scaffold here, we have an app bar and we have the body, and that's the main page. So the main part of the page, the main meat of it, is going to be in the body. Well, that's what we're going to implement in each of the explore, save, trips, inbox, and account page. We're not going to worry about a scaffold. Okay, so let's start off here. Just to kind of demonstrate things, all I'm going to do is I'm going to have a center and I'm going to have a text. Okay, and this is going to be my explore page. Okay, like so. Oh, this should be the child. There we go. And essentially, I'm just going to do this a few times. Okay, so we probably won't need text widgets, but yeah, probably not actually. And I'm just going to copy this. We'll probably want AppConstants at some point, so I'm actually going to leave that in. So that's the explore page. We'll do the same for save page, but obviously changing the text there. Then we'll do the same for trips page. Okay, and then inbox, and finally the account page. Now, of course, we also need to change these titles to reflect what page we're currently on. So let's change out. This is going to be the account page. So copy, paste, and this is going to be the account page state. We do need to make sure that these are all stateful widgets. Okay, then we'll do the same with the inbox. So inbox page, copy and paste, and it's going to be the inbox page state. If you want to skip this part, just do it yourself. That's totally fine. Just make sure that you do it correctly and that you're doing it for all of them. It's going to be the trips. Oops, this should just be here and here. And then we want to do the trips page state. Paste. And then the saved page state. So saved page state. Okay, almost done. Saved page state. Here we go, and there. And then I think that's it. Okay, so let's go back to the guest home page. And now under pages, all we need to do is create an instance of each of them. So we're going to do the explore page, like so. We'll have to add that import. Okay, we're going to do the saved page. Okay, we're going to do the trips page. We'll do the inbox page. And we'll do the account page. And now, if you can't import any of these, chances are you've made a typo along the way. Okay, so let's just import each of these. Okay, and finally with the account page, we'll do that as well. We can actually close these up. We don't really need to modify anything within them. And I think it's just kind of messy otherwise. All right, so I think we are just about good to go. The last thing we need to do is text is going to be the page titles of the selected index. Okay, now we need a way to, of course, navigate to this guest homepage. So we are going to do this via the sign up page as well as the main, or I think it's the login page. So we have a function in the sign up page. Actually, we don't have anything there. In the login page, we actually have a sign up function like this. We're going to create a similar function there. This is going to be our login function. Okay, this is in the login page, by the way, except that the push named is not going to be our sign up page.root name. This is going to be our guest homepage.root name, which means we'll have to also add it in main. So we'll do the guest homepage.root name. Okay, let's just add that import. Okay, and we'll basically do the same thing. So we'll just add the context parameter and then the guest homepage, like so. Okay, so that's good. That's all we need in main. Then in the sign up or in the login page, we just need to do, instead of the sign up page, it's going to be the guest homepage.root name. We'll probably need to add that import. We'll have to call login from the actual login button. And that is up here. On pressed, we're going to call login. All right. And then we'll do the same thing in the sign up page. So when the user presses submit, we will have to actually navigate. We're going to need some extra functionality. So let's implement that function. Let's just call this function something like sign up. So void sign up. We can copy and paste this code here. And of course, instead of the sign up page.root name, this is going to be the guest home page.root name. Add the import. Kind of annoying that you have to do that every time, but that's just something we have to do in Flutter. And here we're going to do the sign up page. By the way, for these, I'm kind of doing this, encapsulating it like this. You can actually just do something like this. Okay, I choose not to do it this way just because if you need to pass in any parameters, it can get a bit hairy. I think this works probably better. So that's just why I do things that way, just so you know. Okay, so I think we are good to go. Let's give this a stop and we'll reload it. So I'm just going to, again, pause my recording and wait for this to finish. All right, so it's finished loading. Let's see if this works. So we'll press the login button. Okay, you can see we're in Explore page, and also take a look at this. So we have the Explore icon. See, it's selected, and none of the others are. We're in the Explore page. Saved. Okay, saved, save page, and now this is selected. Now trips page, and trips up there. Inbox page, and inbox up there, and then profile, and you can do account. You can set this to profile page or account page. It's totally up to you. But at least we know it's working. So the difference here is that we're not pushing a new page onto the navigation stack. All this is doing is when we hit this guest homepage, it loads each of these 5 pages. It creates instances of them, and then it's just kind of subbing that into this body. So it's not pushing another one onto the stack. It's just subbing in whatever state. Rather whatever kind of app we're creating in, let's say, any one of these, let's say the Explore page. It's just whatever we're building here, it's really just subbing that into what is being currently displayed in this body. Now, one final thing I want to do with this scaffold is actually get rid of this back navigation item. The reason I want to get rid of this item, or I guess I should say icon really, is because we don't want to be able to press this and go back to the login page. Once we're logged in, we want to stay logged in, unless we go to the profile or account page and press log out. That should be the time at which we then navigate back. So we really don't want to be able to navigate back here. What we're going to do is go to our guest home page. Under the app bar, after title or before, it doesn't really matter. We're going to add this parameter called, I believe it's automatically imply leading. We're going to do false. That will get rid of the back navigation. There we go. So now we can't navigate back that way. Also, I don't really like this all the way over to the left. So what we can do is we can just center the title. So center title, we do true. That should just bring it into the middle there once it finishes loading. Okay. Actually, you know what? I think that even looks worse. So Perhaps I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay, otherwise that is it for now. We have this kind of navigation system set up. There's these 5 main pages. There will of course take us to other pages in which we won't see this, but those will be kind of pushing new pages onto the stack, and more on that to come. Now, I just want to say moving forwards, some of these tutorials have been a little bit slow maybe to you guys, and that's because a lot of them are fairly repetitive. Like for example, with the sign up page, it seems to be a lot of the same stuff. We're basically just kind of copying and pasting this 5 times and tweaking things here or there. Moving forwards, I'd like to eliminate me recording that stuff because I'm sure it's boring to you guys. What I'll do instead is say something like, we're going to implement this, we're going to add 5 of them, and then I'll kind of pause my recording, I'll do all 5, and then I'll resume recording and say this is kind of what I came up with, and this will give you a chance as well to try doing some of this stuff on your own, which is of course the best way to learn. As well, where possible, always try to avoid reusing code. Sometimes it's inevitable, like for example these all look pretty much the same, but having to create a custom widget just isn't very practical. The reason being, each of them is taking in different label text, each of them may be taking in slightly different style, and we'll see later on that each of these will take in a different validator function and a different controller. So it's really just not practical creating a separate widget or even a separate function for each of these. But as much as possible, we will be creating our own custom widgets and using those instead. Okay, so that is it for here. When we come back, we are going to be working on the profile side of things. So we'll start with just our account page and then changing the settings. And then we can work on the viewing a profile and then go from there. Okay, so thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. What is up guys, welcome to part 8 of our Building the App Wireframes tutorial series. Here we'll build up our account page, which will act as a kind of a personal profile screen for our app. So this is just going to be a way to view some basic information and take various actions that have to do with our account. So in this account page, we're going to start with a display name, a display picture, and a name. So this will be our profile image. I know we don't have one yet, so we'll just load in a default one. And then, of course, our name. And then we'll have basically a list of options or actions to take. So we can either navigate to different pages or take various actions depending on which we select. We'll start off really simple and just have the 3, although feel free to add more afterwards. So we'll just have a means to navigate to the Edit Account information page. We'll have a way to become a host or go to the hosting dashboard, and we'll have a way to log out. Like I said, if you want to add more, that's fine, but for now let's head on over to the code and we'll just get the basics on the page. So this is where we left off last time. This is our guest home here. This was kind of just the main frame that contains these bottom navigation items and then the actual pages that we're going to display based on which is selected. So that's working. We've got our selection mechanism down. For now, we're going to actually open up the account page, and that's what we're going to be focusing on. Okay, so let's take a look at what our account page will look like, or at least plan it out. If we open up the emulator, I know we've got nothing running yet, but what we want is we want kind of a circle profile image, a little bit bigger than we'd usually have up top, and our name beside it. After this, we're going to have just basically a list of various options. Each will be kind of like a block that acts as a button. Maybe we'll have like a text and an icon to keep things a bit interesting. And like I said, we'll just have the 3 options, but if you want to add more, you can. For example, if you want to add a notifications option, if you want to add like a process payment option, that's fine. This is basically just going to be a hub, which we can use to navigate to various account related pages. So with that in mind, we'll start with the top. This will be just a simple row, but first we'll slap some padding onto here because we want things to be kind of away from the edges and away from the top. So let's actually get rid of the center widget. We're not going to need it, as we'll have kind of stuff to the left and to the right and all over the place. So we're going to get rid of that, and we'll start off with just some padding. So this is going to be edge insets. Actually, you know what? Let's make things a bit easier on ourselves. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to copy this padding from the sign up page. This is stuff that we've used before. There we go. So this is just kind of 50 away from everything except from the bottom. Okay. You should also note that we're not using a scaffold here. We're actually just returning the padding right away. That also means that we don't have an app bar. But actually we do have an app bar, and we do have some scaffolding. That's all placed in the guest homepage. So the guest homepage has the scaffold with the app bar, displaying the appropriate title, and its body is going to be one of these pages. So that's why we're not using a scaffold in our account page, because otherwise we'd have two scaffolds, and that's not very good. Okay, so back here. After the padding, what do we want? Well, we know we want the image and the name up top. So this is probably going to be in a row because we'll be placing these side by side. So let's start off with the child being actually a column. Okay, I know I just said row, but we're going to be placing one item and then the other item. This is going to be a row and this will be a list view. Okay, so let's start with the row. That's going to be the first child. Okay, and I guess we'll finish this before we move on to the list view. Okay, so our row is going to contain that profile image and then the text. Now we actually want this profile image to be a button because we want it to navigate us to how others would view our page, or kind of like a view profile page. So we'll encase this in a circle avatar, which is going to be inside of a button. So I think we can actually just start off with a material button. Okay, we'll give it an onPressed of a blank function for now, and we're going to have the child be again that circle avatar. So a circle avatar is a nice way to display an image as a circle. We'll fill this in just a second. After the material button, we're going to have some text, but because we may have a very long name and we may need to compress it, we're actually going to use an auto-size text. I think we're going to have to import that, which is why it's not showing up. Yes, okay, so we just need to import that library there. So the auto-size text, the main reason I imported it is because let's say we have the image and we have the name. Most names are going to fit in here if we provide some, reasonably big or small font. But if someone has a really, really long name, it might go off the end and it gets cut off here. So what we want to do is we want to auto-size that, auto-resize it so that the entire name fits on one line. Okay, so that's why I'm using specifically the auto-size text. Okay, so we're probably going to modify the properties of this, but for now, I'm just going to put in my name. Okay, we will revisit this concept and fill in some actual data a bit later on. Again, for now, we really just want some kind of a placeholder. Okay, so this circle avatar is going to need a child, which is going to be an image. Now, right now, we don't have any images, so let's add one to our project. Now, this is just going to be a pretty generic profile image. I guess I'll use my personal profile image. I just have an image of myself. And what we're going to do is get that image. I think it's this one here. Yep, I'm just going to copy this. Okay, and I'm going to add it to my project. So I'm going to first create an assets folder. So it's going to be a directory. We'll call this assets. Okay, then we'll go within this and create another directory called images. And this is just in case we have other assets like sound assets, and I want to paste my image into my assets. So this is kind of what it looks like. I have assets, then images, and then the image itself. Feel free to use whatever image you want. I'm just going to use my personal profile image. You can use just a very generic image, something maybe that looks like this. I have like a default avatar, which I'm going to use for other people. That might be something that you want. In fact, I am going to use this at some point, so I'm going to copy that in as well. Okay, so I have these two images, but before we can use them in our project, we need to actually add them to the pubspec YAML file. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take this and we're going to uncomment it. Now, for some reason, it's very, very specific about indentation here. So we're actually going to move that indentation back. And we're going to get rid of these because these don't exist. What we're going to do is we want every asset that's in this images folder. So we're going to do, assets / images and then / like this. And this will make sure that we have access to every image that's in this images folder. This should be fairly familiar to you guys. I mean, we did a tutorial on this when we were doing our intro to Flutter, so you should know how to add image assets to your project. Okay, so I'll just make sure that indentation's good. We can go ahead and get these packages. I'll probably upgrade that pretty quick here. Maybe not in this section, but at the end. Once that's done, we can close it up and we should be able to use that image. So our child here is going to be an asset image. Okay, that asset image is going to need an asset name. And that name is going to be assets/images/ and then I'll do my one, so nimish.jpg, although again feel free to use whichever you want. And actually this is going to need an image widget, so let's put this inside of an image like this, and then the image is just going to be the asset image. Okay, so annoyingly you can't actually just put in an asset image by itself, it has to be wrapped around an actual image. Okay, cool stuff. Now, this child avatar is probably going to be pretty big, so let's change up the size of it, okay? So we'll set a radius equal to our width of the screen divided by 10. And that's going to be, that's again going to be the radius, not the diameter. So we'll do a media query.offContext, and we'll get the size.width divided by 10. I found gives us a pretty decent size. Okay, so that takes care of our child avatar. Let's see how the child looks. We may have to set the background image instead, but we'll see. Okay, and then we have this text here. Okay, so let's go ahead and fire this up, and we'll see what it looks like for the very first time. Now, we're about 9.5 minutes. I think what I'll do is I will just take a look at what this looks like, and then I'll stop this section, and then when we come back, we can kind of finish everything off. Okay, so let me just pause this recording for now and wait for this to finish loading. All right, so it's finished loading up. We'll just go ahead and log in there, and we'll go to the profile page. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now. This is not round, and we definitely want it to be, and then here's our name here. So we're going to need to provide some kind of a fix for that. So instead of the child being this image, what we're actually going to do is we'll set the background image equal to, and then I think we can just stick the asset image right in there. So let's close that guy up, and then we'll just replace it with the background image. So let's go ahead and we'll reload that. And that should, yes, it does indeed, make it into the circle there. Now, I guess what we can do here before we finish it off is actually style this guy up a bit. That way we only have really the list view to deal with. So, yeah, let's do that. So I actually kind of want it a bit closer to the end there. So I'm going to change this to 25 left and 25 there. I'm okay with the distance from the top. Okay, so that should just shove it back there. Okay, good stuff. So let's work on the text. I think we're just going to go with something pretty simple and just change the font size. I don't think we'll go, yeah, I guess we could change the style as well. We could make it bold. So let's add in a text style. Okay, we'll do a font weight, being a font weight dot bold. Okay, we'll do a font size. And we'll set this equal to, maybe we'll try a 25. Okay, so let's just take a look at how that looks. Okay, so that looks a little better. Now, you know what? I think probably it will look a bit better if we have the email underneath and if we move this over. But in the interest of trying to keep things a bit shorter, I'm actually going to stop this here. So when we come back, we're going to be building up our list view. We'll finish up this, and then we'll basically finish up any other styling that we might have. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. What is up, guys? Welcome to part 9 of our Building the App Wireframes tutorial series. This is also part 2 of building our account page, and this is what it looks like right now. So you can see we have our circle avatar and the name, but we've still got some more stuff to add to this page, and we definitely have to style it up a bit. For starters, we want to add the email underneath, and then we want to, of course, modify this a bit, space it out properly, and finally we'll finish up with the actual list view on the bottom. So first things first, let's go ahead and actually add that email. So because we're doing one on top of the other, name and then email, we'll probably replace this with a column, or rather just place it inside of a column. Okay, and actually there's an easier way to do that. I can just go wrap with a column. Okay, so we have an auto says text for the name. And now let's make one for the email. So I'm just going to put my email. Okay. And I'm going to make sure that this is smaller, and I'm going to take out the bold font. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now, like that. So ideally what we want is for these to line up. We want this to be over here, and we'd like a little bit of spacing as well. So we'll start by changing up the columns and the rows spacing and the cross and main axis alignment. Okay, so it's always good to be specific. We have everything here wrapped inside of a column, so this row is inside of a column. We want these to both start at the top and at the left. So in our main column here, we're going to set the, oops, that shouldn't be in children. We're going to set the main axis alignment equal to main axis alignment dot start, and the same with the cross axis alignment. Cross-axis alignment dot start, actually, not center. Okay, so we'll go ahead and refresh that. We shouldn't see a whole lot of changes. Maybe it'll move things very slightly. Okay, next up, we want our row here to be main axis alignment dot start. I think that is the default anyway, but always good to specify that. That'll make sure that everything starts on the very far left. Okay, probably shouldn't see much in the way of shifting there. And finally, we want to make sure that this particular column has a cross-axis alignment dot start. Because this is a column, the cross-axis alignment dot start will make sure that everything starts on the left-hand side. So actually, we can copy that in, and we'll just paste it right in there. And finally, we should see these guys line up. There we go. Okay, I think we'll add in a little bit of padding there. It doesn't need to be too much, but always I think it will look a little better. So just after this button, we'll add in that padding. That's going to be this wrapped around this column. Okay, and we'll do an edge insets only from the left. Let's try just a 10 and see how that looks. Okay, so it looks a little better. We can maybe even go a bit more. Let's try 15. Hopefully it's not going to cut things off. And it looks like it's cutting it off, so I think we'll just stick with the 10 there. Okay. All right, so before we get started on the list, there is going to be one tiny thing we can do to this to make it look a little better. So very often you'll see kind of like a black border around it. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I think it'll probably look a bit better with just a thin black border. Now, right now the circle avatar is fairly primitive and doesn't have a border property. So what we can do is we can implement this hack, which is to place another circle avatar just behind it. So we're going to wrap this with another widget, and that widget is going to be yet another circle avatar. Okay, so I think we should be able to specify the background color to be colors.black. Okay, and we're going to make this radius equal to pretty much this, but just a little bit bigger. So instead of 10, we'll do maybe a 9.8, and let's see how that looks. Okay, so we can go ahead and refresh it. And yeah, we should see a very, very thin black border. We can make that a bit thicker. Maybe we'll try 9.5. Okay, so now we're starting to get a little bit of cutoff, so we can change that. Maybe instead of a 10, we'll change it to an 8. Or if we want, we can actually minimize this padding here. I think I might do that instead because this is a little bit far from the edge still. Okay, yeah, so that looks a bit better. Cool. So we have the top part done, and now we can work on the actual list view part of things. So let's add that to the screen here, or to the page rather, under our column. So we have our row, and then right after that. Okay, so we're going to add in a list view. Sometimes we'll use the list view builder. This time we actually know exactly how many items we have, so we're just going to use a basic list view. Okay, so we're going to add some child widgets, and now this is where things get a bit different. So we're going to actually create our own custom list view widget. The reason is we're going to add in a few of them. I'm only going to add 3, but you may add 4 or 5 or 6, and if we don't build this custom widget, we're going to be reusing a whole lot of code. So this will be a nice way to build again another custom widget. We've already built the custom app bar text, but that was quite simple. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do is we'll start up a new class. Okay, and this is going to be our account page list view item. Okay, or tile, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to extend a stateless widget. Okay, it's not going to have any state associated with it because it doesn't really need to have it. So we're going to create that missing override, which will be our build function. Okay, we'll probably need to take in some information into this account page list view item. So we're going to create a custom constructor. It will take in a key, and it will take in some other properties. So then we'll do a super key like so. All right, so what other properties is this account page list view item going to have? Well, we said that each of them is going to have some text and an icon. So that's all it really needs. So we'll have a final string text and then a final icon. And we can do icon data, maybe icon data. And then we just need to set them up here. So actually this should be in something like this. Okay, and we're going to say this dot text and this dot icon data. And actually we need to add the semicolon. Okay, so then what are we going to do? What are we actually going to return here? Well, I figure we can just return a list tile. We'll have the main portion be the text, and then we can just have a trailing item be the icon. So list tiles have leading, trailing, titles, and subtitles. We're going to ignore most of that and just have the trailing, and either we'll go with a title or a subtitle depending on how it looks. So we'll return here a list tile. Okay, and you know what, let's actually call this list account page list tile. Okay, I guess it makes a bit more sense. And there we go. Okay, so actually, you know what, instead of a title or a subtitle, we'll actually do a leading and a trailing. That will probably look best overall. So we'll do the leading equal to a text widget. That text is going to take in this dot text. And then we'll have a trailing widget that is just going to be an icon using this icon data. Icon data. Cool stuff. So we maybe want to add in a specific size and style to this. So we're going to do here. We're going to do a font. I guess we'll need a style, a text style. Okay, we'll do a font size, maybe we'll try 20 and see how that looks. That way we can adjust it if we need to. And we'll do an icon size for this guy, because I think these icons are quite small otherwise. And we'll do a size, maybe we'll try a 30.0, that should be okay. Maybe we'll try 25. All right, cool stuff. So we've created our account page list tile. Now for each of these items, we just need to create some way of pressing on them and then navigating to the appropriate page. Now list views do actually come with an on tap, or I think it's a clicked or something like that, but we're not going to use that. We're actually just going to wrap each of these list tiles in a button. I'm not going to do that here, just because I want the actual functionality to exist in this account page state. It's just much easier if I do things this way. So let's create some material buttons as our list view children. We'll start with the first one, which will be a way to change our account information or our profile information. So we're going to wrap this again in a material button. Okay. We'll add our onPressed. Equal to a blank function for now, and then we'll add the child to be an account page list tile. Okay, this is going to need some text, and it's also going to need an icon data. So the text is going to be our personal information. And the icon is going to be, or the icon data is going to be an icons dot, and then I guess what we can have is a person icon like this, just something fairly straightforward. Okay, so that's going to be our first item. Let's actually just go ahead and do this and see what this looks like. Okay, are we actually getting any errors or anything? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought would happen. All right. So when dealing with anything scrollable within something that may also be scrollable, you'll often get an issue that looks a bit like this. It's actually really annoying to debug, and it's not very clear what a solution is. So essentially, anytime you're dealing with a list view inside of, let's say, a column or another scroll view, it doesn't really like that, because it doesn't know exactly how big to make either of them, because one is based on the size of the other, but the other's also based on the size of it, and it just gets a bit confused. So I find one solution is often to say shrink wrap is equal to true on our list views. That may solve the issue here. We may also need to wrap this in an expanded widget. Okay, cool stuff. So actually solved the issue, no problem. Okay, so we can go ahead and add the others. This is, again, going to do nothing when it's clicked for now. I do kind of want to change some of the things. This text for 1 being a little bit too big. Maybe we'll just try a 20 text. Okay, yeah, maybe that looks a bit better. Okay, also, we are probably going to have to adjust the height, but more on that in a bit. So let's add in the others. Okay, what time are we? About 11:30. So we will just add in the others here. And so I'll have personal information. I'll also have, what others do I want to have? I guess I'll do something like become a host. Okay, and it's going to be icons instead of person. We can do maybe the icons.hotel. Okay, and finally we'll have the logout. Okay, and this is actually going to be null. We don't want to have any icon for logout. If you want, you can actually. I'm not going to put any icon there. I'm just going to have the logout button. So right now, if we refresh it, it looks like this. Okay. All right, so our page is looking okay. Definitely needs a bit of spacing, and we can work on this text. I think it's still a bit too bold, so we'll deal with that. But I'll give you guys a bit of a break, and when we come back, we can kind of finish this guy up. Okay, so that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. What is up, guys? Welcome to part 10 of building the app wireframes tutorial series. This is also part 3 of building up our personal account page. So this is what it looks like right now. It's looking okay. We've got all the parts that we need on the page, but we definitely have a few issues. So we need to work with spacing. We also need to work with these texts a bit more. So for starters, this list view is much too close to here. So we can solve that just by adding some padding. We can either add it around the list view, or we can add it around this row. I think I will actually add it around the row itself. So we've got our row here. Go ahead and close that up. And I'm just going to surround this row with a bit of padding. We only need some on the bottom, so we're just going to do a bottom padding of maybe we'll try 20 and see how that looks. Just kind of eyeballing it here. Okay, let's give this a refresh. I don't know if that actually reloaded or not. Okay, yeah, it did. So let's move down a bit. You know what? I think we could do even a bit more because this is still actually quite high up there. Maybe we'll try a 30 or even a 40. Okay, there we go. So shifted down. So the next issue is that this stuff is kind of indented. I don't really know that I want this much of an indent. And I think that's actually a property of the list item. So, or the list tile itself. I think there is actually a padding. And essentially what I want is an edge insets.all value of 0.0. So I think that should kind of make things poof out to the sides. Yes, it does. So this way we get this nice kind of alignment here and here. I think it's actually a little bit off there, but that's just kind of a property of the icon. So looking better already. Okay, so the next item is that this text is bold. I think, again, that might actually be a property of the leading. So let's see if we can do a font style or font weight. To a font weight dot, and then we'll just do a font weight dot normal. We'll see if that fixes the issue. Okay, and it does. Yeah. So kind of weird. Just I guess that's just a property of the leading. If you do a text there, then it automatically makes it bold. Okay, so that means we can actually increase the size back to 25. I think that was more the problem, was just the bolder text than the size of the text, which means that if you want to make these icons a bit bigger, you can as well. So maybe we'll try 35. Okay, so the next step is going to be to make these a bit bigger. They're kind of a bit close together. So I'm going to work on spacing them out a bit. I think the easiest way is honestly just to change the height of the buttons. So material button, can we change the height? Yes, we can. I think it's probably best to do a height based on the size of the screen. So we'll do a media query dot off context dot size dot height, and then we'll try height divided by let's try a 10. I think I may have to adjust that, but we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so that's spaced them out, but not very much. So I guess we'll try maybe something a bit bigger. Maybe we'll try an 8. Okay, and of course this spacing will depend entirely on how many of these you have. If you have lots of options, then you might want to encapsulate the entire thing within a scroll view and make sure that the list view won't shift. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that height. I'll apply it to all of the buttons here. Okay, let's go ahead and refresh that. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. Everything is spaced out a bit better. And actually, you know, that might even be a bit too much now, so maybe I'll change that to a 9. So as long as that is good, then we should be fine. The only other thing that I want to do is add in the logout functionality. The become a host we won't do yet, and the personal information is actually going to navigate to a page we'll implement in the next section. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is just add the logout functionality, and that is going to be on pressed when we press the logout tile here. Now I'm not going to add it right here. I'm actually going to do a function separate to this, because realistically, when it comes time to implement the functionality, we're going to do more than just navigate. We're going to have to log out, we're going to have to end the current session, etc. So I'm going to create a function called logout. So it's going to be a void logout, like so. Okay, and it's basically, for now, just going to do navigator dot push named. Okay, we can do the context, and the root name is, I believe, just going to be our login page dot root name. Import this library. Okay, and then we can call this logout function from the on pressed here. And because we don't need any parameters, this one we can actually just do a logout like this. Okay, so let's give this a refresh. And we'll see if this is working properly. So we press log out, and we're back to the login page. All right, so it's looking like it is working just fine. Go log out and log in, and so on and so forth. So I think what I'll actually do is I'll have this be the first screen that the user sees when they log in. Very often this is actually the explore screen, but I think it's probably easiest, realistically, if we just do the profile screen. So for this, what we can do is we can go to our screens, and we can go to the guest homepage. Now you'll see that when the guest homepage loads, as is the case when we log in, for example, we get the selected index equal to 0. So instead we can set the default selected index equal to 4, and that way every time this page loads, it automatically loads the 4th account page, or it displays the 4th page. I guess actually the page at index 4, so it's the 5th page. And that'll be our account page that gets displayed. So we can refresh this. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll log out. And then every time we log in, you can see that it takes us to our profile page. Okay, good stuff. So I think we can end this here. The only other thing I kind of want to do is actually make this a bit bigger. I'm not too happy with that font size. The more I look at it, the more it bothers me. So I think I'm going to go into I think we put it under models, the AppConstants. And, oh, actually, no, this was under views because this is our special app bar text. Let's try a 25. I have a feeling I already tried this, but it was a bit too big. You know what? I'm actually much more happy with that. So if we go to the sign up page, let's see how that looks. Yeah, you know, I'm much more happy with that. So instead of sign up page, I guess we can just say sign up. But other than that, it is good to go for now. So it's actually the sign up page, and we just want sign up. Okay, cool stuff. Or we could even do create account or fill in information, whatever we want, but I'm happy with sign up. Cool, so that is it for now. We've successfully finished the account page. All we have left to do is implement the navigation to the correct portion, the correct places, such as becoming a host or the personal information page. We're going to be working on this personal information page in the next section, so stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.